Recording in progress. Got it. Recording in progress. Got it. Matt, speaking of mushrooms, I'm currently in mushroom land very happily.
Wasn't that a game, or was that a different game? What was that? Chutes and Ladders that had Mushroom Land?
We're going to talk games, Matt. Let's talk about the dude. Let's talk some psilocybin, some mushroom stocks, just because we love the graphics, not because there may or may not be anything going on in the space. We know that it was schmeezed into the end of the year.
Oh yeah, they're continuing to schmeeze it. We can talk about it for sure, Bob. And one of the things that we talked about is that when it gets under 30, it's going to fall, and it's been cut in half. We're trading down to 1560, been as low as 1377 or so.
And interesting, Matt, in uncharted territory, prices never trade before.
Yeah, it's all new prices. But the thing, the one that I'm going to bring up here to go with this is, again, we talked about this. Marijuana has been in a bear market now for a solid, at least going back. I mean, this name had a recovery, but what I'm going to bring up, this had a recovery in November, December, and then it sold off again. So this name is done until it decides to turn, but this is going to be a good buy. And guess what? When it snaps back, it'll snap back to, right now it looks like 30 is the value area on the 610. So it will snap, and it only can go to zero. So your risk now at this point is $15.60.
Right. You can only go one bad mushroom trip to zero.
Not involved at this point, but one I started buying yesterday on the big whoosh was, and I've been waiting for this, Canopy. It got down into the sixes. 666 actually was 664 was the low. So I picked up, if I'm going to buy the God's kale, as Jim Belushi likes to say, not devil's lettuce. If I'm going to buy it, why not buy 666? So I had an order in down there and picked some up yesterday. It's already rallied, of course, with everything yesterday. But I like this chart, Bob. I mean, you talk about a move from $57 down here to the sixes. It's again a new low. If we look at the daily, this is chutes and ladders at its finest. We have not been back here. We're back to 2017 pricing when it went down to 561. So I figured I'll buy some 666 and I might have to buy it down to $5. But
let's face it, you're buying it to zero.
Well, you might. You might. But again, the risk right now is only $6.60 that I have on the table.
Right on. I love it.
And, I like the chart. I mean, this is a chart that eventually will turn around. I don't know when, but, this has been a long sell-off. This was a year ago, February. So it's probably getting close to getting a nice little bounce here.
Tell me, they have earnings coming up.
They do have earnings.
Market cap, do they make money?
Earnings are coming up February 9th. Estimates of losing 22 cents a share. Revenues estimate of 110 million for the quarter, and market cap of 2.82 billion today. So no dividend, obviously. They're not making any money. But out of all the names, this is the biggest one, and this is the one I think, I want to say like Constellation Brands owns like 49% of Canopy also, which is another way you can look at it. And we could talk about that. We haven't talked about that name in a while. And I think it's STZ. Yeah. And let's just bring it in that chart just to look at it. Sir Elton cancels all his concerts again. The old man can't do the shows. He's got the vid. Just throw
Elton John canceling his shows.
Yeah.
How the hell is he going to pay $40,000 a month for the flowers that he
for the flower bill? Constellation Brands looks like it is a little lagging here with its high put in at 258. Finally selling off a little bit. This is a name that could probably come down a little. Pays a nice dividend, not nice, but at least something. 1.3%, $44 billion market cap. Bullish, but I could see this thing again, Bob, as we get into the 230 area, as we get into the value. I could see this thing pulling back to 200, 170 possibly. So that looks real doable here.
And again, how many profiles have we brought up that aren't that meaty?
Right.
There are some gaps in this profile for sure, but it's not like the ladder steps that we've seen in many other issues.
Yeah. Well, again, this is a multi-year chart. but you know, it's had a heck of a run, a 2.5 bagger since the March low of 20. So the easy money's off again. I mean, you know, people aren't expanding. They're not bringing in new products, you know, Constellation brands, the Truly stuff. I mean, again, the 2 years of partying because you're at home, so you're drinking seltzers and all that stuff, it's over for a while, people. We got to get back to real life. Got to get back to
real
living.
work and real rolls of the dice. Matt, you shared this. Tell us about your Sunday morning ritual of getting the major league averages. We talked about this on the way in because, listen, everybody's trading methodology at the end of the day is an if-then statement. It's just, what are your if-thens and are you beholden to them?
Right.
Talk
you know,
to us a little bit about
as a kid, baseball was my game that I played. That we didn't have lacrosse. We did not have a hockey rink where my parents moved to in the suburbs. It was a sleepy little town. So hockey wasn't available to me except for pond hockey. You know, I was just a poor white kid living in the suburbs by the mall, you know, the typical life. So what did I do? I mean, on Sundays, it was the only day that they dumped all that, like, you know, first of all, you had the stock pages every day, right? But then on Sundays, you had the baseball stats. And they would line up all the statistical leaders, American League versus National League. And I would go through them. Who's got the most doubles? Who's got the most triples? And I would match them up. American League, or, you know, and I was an American League guy because I lived in an American League city with Detroit. And I would just keep track. And it was funny because in my mind, like I would always know, oh, you know, Louis Tion's got the best ERA right now for starting pitchers. And I knew, you know, Greg Nettles was leading the league in home runs for the Yankees at that time. And I'm just remembering some of this stuff. But then he got taken over by Dave Winfield, you know, and it was kind of a way of, I was already into charting when I was a kid. This was the stuff I was into. This was the way my mind thought, like the arbitrage. I had a beer can collection. I had a stamp collection. I had a baseball card collection, and I traded. I literally would, you know, if I had multiple P roses, I would flip out of one to pick up 12 other cards. You know what I mean?
Who do you got? Well, right. Who do you got?
Like I was telling the boys this the other day, because one of Peter's friends, you know, is into card collecting. I thought he said car collecting. He's like, no, my dad's been into card collecting since, like, you know, the 80s or the 70s. I'm like, oh, like, show me some of the ones that he has. And so we got, you know, and I told him how I had 2 complete top sets, 1974, that I had won at the Christ the King, you know, church Christmas fair thing. And they were like, oh, what'd you do with them? I'm like, my mom threw them away when I went to college.
All right. All right, man, listen, why don't you, if then your strategy today in the NASDAQ, let's nail down just a little bit more of your if then from a profile perspective.
Well, I came in this morning thinking, you know, yesterday's blow off run up to 14.5 wouldn't last. And matter of fact, I was short overnight and we wrote it down from 14.5. I was looking for 14,000. We finally hit it here just before we came on. This was about 8:40. Why 14,000? It's the golden ratio, 61.8 of that move. So yesterday's move, if I pull back just a little bit, Bob, we went from 13.7 all the way to 14.529. This area, the point of control happens to be the 50% retrace, which is 125. We're trading at 75, which is above the 1425. You know, 14.0025 is about the golden ratio. So I was looking for a short all the way to that area and then look to get long because we got the Fed meeting today and then the rate announcement from that Fed meeting tomorrow, Bob. So I see it being pretty sleepy, quiet, maybe getting, you know, more, as long as 14,000 holds, you can be long. If it doesn't hold, then, you know, we're probably go test that low again. And by the way, we didn't test that low, not even once. So we will have to revisit that number at least one more time.
One would think so. As
Saul Kaufman, it doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be this week, but that number will always be now in my brain. 13,707 was the low. We got to test it. We never tested it.
Saul used to say the market always trades your price again, whether you have
it always
the
does.
Margin to hold out till it does and the time.
Yep.
That's another story. A story for another day.
Right.
Matt, speaking of stories, let's talk story time. Somehow I knocked out the shroom background.
Can I get my blankie?
Yeah, story time, because I want to bring this up. and then I want to share. Listen, talk about if-thens, Matt. When you say a statement that is blatantly inflammatory to your population, then, people say, hey, fuck you. And I just want to share this. Jordan Peterson retweeting this, and this is a video from Bernie's tweets of the 70-kilometer long truck parade heading to Ottawa to protest the draconian measures in place in Canada, the Great White North puppet show. I love that one. Matt, have you ever been to Ottawa? Because I'm not sure downtown Ottawa can look at this. I don't think downtown Ottawa has enough room for 70 kilometers of trucks. And what are they going to do? They're just going to all pull in.
Or are they just they're gonna unload on Justin's front yard, and then he'll come out and offer jabs for everybody.
Jabs.
Talk more jabs, blah blah blah. As the disciple of Klaus Schwab.
70 kilometers. I'm serious. There's not room in Canada for it.
Right. They're going to be backed up all the way to Kingston, Ontario.
Showing a little of his demographic or his geographic knowledge of the era.
Mm-hmm.
Lee's got Mickey, Hank, and
all
I
I can tell you, Bob, is there's a new season of Letterkenny. So that's all I care about. That's good.
Is anybody masked up in the new season of Letterkenny?
No. They're in the bar drinking like always.
Matt, bring up the Canadian dollar and let's argue.
Let's argue. Well, last time we brought up the Canadian dollar was May of 21. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was wrong, and it didn't hold its momentum lines on any time frame. And then you punt. It's a if-then.
Okay.
It's simply a if-then. And I agree with you in our argument that sometimes, especially in trading, especially when you're highly leveraged and you're really trading intraday, the monthly chart does you no good.
Here you go, Bob. This is where we last talked about the Canadian dollar. I said sold, and you were liking it up here, thinking we were going to repeat something from, I don't know, when was it? 2000, somewhere back.
Go back further. Well, we were talking. Wait a second. Let's frame it correctly, because we were talking about commodity super cycles.
And we did not have a super cycle in 08 and 9, but it was just normal.
No, it wasn't 08, 9. It was 02 to 08. And I don't know if there was a commodity super cycle then either. I'm just telling you, you got to go to the monthly, Matt. You got to go to the monthly. Definitely.
Well, I'm looking at the weekly. I saw it right there. It's a broke ass chart is what it is. This goes back to 2000, and it's holding on for its life. As I said, every currency goes to zero over time. There's not been one that has survived the history of mankind. So this is just another one.
Again, Saul Kaufman, long enough timeline. But you know what? Here's something that's completely different: is the attack and the extremism that especially Trudeau and his government is showing in Canada. I mean, they want to turn off all the oil. They don't want to cut down a tree. I mean, what are they going to do in the country?
All those trucks will just be parked out front of Justin's for the rest of his life. So that'll be great. At least he'll have supplies for the rest of his life.
All right, so let's fractal back in Canada.
Well, this was May of last year. This was, the rally in October. This was the recent rally. Everyone has been lower, and we've gone to
lower highs,
lower lows every time.
Lower lows.
So
not good.
I expect us to go, down to 76 next time. Since we're at 79, we hit 80. We'll probably trade down into here next time. So, yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for Canada. I mean, especially with this continuation of the bullshit they have going on, like you said, with that leadership, how can you get out of this hole that you've buried yourself? And they're broke. I mean, just like every government, especially the Euroland, they're all broke. They can't pay their pensions. And that's why they're playing this game. They're trying to bankrupt it so they don't have to pay the pensions. Then they can say, see, we told you so. Capitalism failed. That's what they're trying to do.
Especially with Canada. I mean, they have outside the norm of everybody's ridiculousness, a per person responsibility for the debt that they've accumulated. And without their natural resources, like they're just going to sell their ideas, because apparently 70 kilometers of truckers aren't really thrilled about their ideas either.
Oh, and guess what? BlackBerry doesn't exist anymore.
Everything goes to a zero eventually.
Everything goes to
All right,
zero.
man. What else catches your eye today in this?
It's quiet. It's, even though we were 500 points off the highs in the Nasdaq, it's really been quiet because the intraday range has been muted. 384 was the high. Actually, no, let's call it 280 was the high. So we've only been in a 250 point range since the market has been open. 250, we went down about 350 overnight, but then came back to 250 and then finally touched that 14,000 as we discussed already. I don't see a lot, Bob. I mean, it's
I kind of think you're right. I think this thing,
we got the Fed meeting today, tomorrow's the announcement. Everybody is bearish. My gut, again, this is just a gut, is, they're leaning to get short, and I think it's the wrong time. Maybe we'll get a rally tomorrow after the rate announcement. Maybe, I talked about it. Maybe we get an 800 point rally up to 14.8, possibly 15.2. If we break 14,000, however, all bets are off. So you're only risking 50 points from today's market. 1449 trades right now, 14,049 on the Nasdaq. So I don't see a lot, Bob. It's really quiet out there. There's a lot of stocks that got hit again. Matter of fact, if you looked at Amazon today, down $120 again. So they've got earnings coming later this week, I believe. I want to say, if it's not this Thursday, next Thursday. So that's coming up. Amazon did trade down yesterday to 2,700-ish. Now it's 2,772, but it's down 4% again today. So that rally that we had yesterday didn't last long. But again, it has to test that low. Those lows that we put in yesterday, it was like there was an algo that took us up. There was nothing but an algo.
Well, listen, and we've talked about this. If you don't understand that, if you're a live person with a mouse in your hand, you are the extreme minority of the participation in the market, and that's fine. I mean, you know what? Let's battle the bots. That's what we do all day. You better understand that, and you better trade accordingly. There's no right or wrong about it. It's just the way the market is set up. It's the battle of the bots.
Amazon, again, on lows. Let's talk a little Bitcoin. It's had a nice rally off that 32, got into the 32,000s that we talked about. All these Bitcoin heads were like, no way, it's not going to 32 to 29. I'm like, okay, where are you now? Talk. But we're back to
particularly like selling that next.
I'd like to sell 40 again, so get it a little higher for me, but not quite. We're not there yet. Again, you got to remember, this is an 89 minute. Yeah, I'd really like to sell 42,000, Bob. Get up in there
As you fractal out a little bit.
Yeah, you know how this thing moves in $10,000 increments, so that'd be about right. 32 to 42, and then back down again.
All right.
I don't see a good picture playing out there. I just don't.
I just wanted to point out again, a great use in the marketvitals.io community is the Market Vitals sheet. And I want to do a little math again for the peoples. And this is the S&Ps. So the pivot was 64 today, 43.64. Pursuit risk of each side of that, 19 and a half points, Matt. Divide that by 0.17, which is how the math works. 19 and a half divided by 0.17. 104, let's call it 115 points expected range for the day. We outperformed it a little bit, but again, man, it's a great thing to have in your arsenal, what that expected range is, because it helps you. It just helps you. A lot of times in trading, Matt, it's like, how do I avoid disaster?
Yeah.
Like, what things help me be a more disciplined trader? And why am I looking for his home run, long or short, when we've already exposed the expected range for the day? Maybe I should think about going into the break room and playing gin and seeing if I can take some money off of, the shitty gin players that are around me. Right. That was back in the day. But, it goes, maybe you should be looking at the baseball lineups and rolling the dice. Do some. If you've already covered more than the expected range, it's just irrational to think that you're going to have this home run setup your way.
I I just had a thought. I was looking at American Express before we came on, and I'm going to go through what I went through. American Express had earnings this morning. They beat by 32 cents, 17%. So they reported 218, expecting 186. Revenues were up by 600 million additional. So good numbers. But here's what's interesting. This is what I want to point out. The stock had been selling off with the rest of the market. It rallied right back to the point of control. If you knew, if this is a name you're following, I would have had, this is a good opportunity. If I have good earnings, dump it on this news. And in fact, this is what we had. This is what we saw, Bob. We came right to the point of control at 172s, 173s, and you can see that here on the 89-minute chart. Bam, spike right to it. Now look at it. But what I'm saying is that would have been a great area for you to sell your longs, right? If you missed it up before it fell down again. Here's another chance on an event to get out before it does go further lower, which I believe this chart tells me. So I would be short this right now. I would be short American Express. There's no more news coming out. They're not at all-time highs, which are 190. So you have a backstop. Again, talking about how to
not only that, if it really spends time and volume above that higher value, you can reassess the situation.
You can reassess it, but the reality is, Bob, you have multiple levels here. You got 183, you got 189, and you're talking about 172, 173 this morning when it traded up there, right? So you sell it, and yeah, you might be able to sell some more up to 177. And again, if you've done your homework, you know where the profile is. The meat is here. The good news just came out. It went from a low yesterday of 153. That's a huge move for a monster market cap. This is a $131 billion company, American Express, everybody knows it, pays a 1% dividend, had the earnings. There's nothing left, people. Now you're going to get the upgrades, downgrades, and we know how that game works. It doesn't really mean much to the stock price. So big behemoth like this in a slowing market, people hopefully are cutting their credit card spending. At least with American Express, it's not even that way anymore, but you used to have to pay off the entire balance. It was like the only credit card that really made sense.
Right on.
Use it.
I found a way to get myself in trouble with that motherfucker. What? How much did I spend? I don't have that kind of money. What kind of idiot does that?
But the point is, I think, there's going to be a struggle for the consumers. The consumer, like the sentiment, the consumer sentiment today. Matter of fact, we can talk about that a little bit. The softened again in January. When I see this headline from the AIER, I'm like, softened. Wow. I mean, just imagine what February and March are going to look like, right? Just imagine what February and March are going to look like. So, as the consumer pulls back and tightens back after the holidays, it's always right. It's natural. They got to pay the bills now that are coming. They're just starting to come in from that December 20th spend. It's January 25th, 1 month later, 11 months to next Christmas, by the way, Bob. Merry Christmas.
You filthy animal. All right, Matt, I don't know what else you got. What else you got? Anything? What do we got? What do we got in the sporting world to
Well, we got, Rodgers and Brady talking retirement and all the haters hating, which I'm like, how can you, both these guys, they've both won Super Bowls. They're both really good players. Why do people hate on the best? That's
just natural. That's just natural human cocksuckeriness.
I mean, if you want to hate on Urban Meyer, I get it. I mean, you will know him by the trail left behind. Every single school the guy was at, Bowling Green, Utah, Ohio State. I mean, disaster behind him. A disaster, Florida. And now Jacksonville. Why would you hire the guy? Why would you hire him? Every place that he left had probationary measures put on them. Every single one. That's why he leaves.
Matt, what are we going to do about the NFL overtime situation? Because it's such a joke.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. In baseball, if it goes to extra innings, the top of the inning doesn't just score a run and end the game.
Well, they have changed the rules,
In baseball?
Yeah, they put a guy in second now.
What still, if you score
that's
a run,
a huge thing. Otherwise, the game would go on 19 innings like it used to.
It's just ridiculous.
Well,
I need to share.
I mean,
my friend Jim.
If you're a baseball purist, you don't like that either. Like, you don't want to see a guy at second. Just play the game.
Yeah. What do we have? No time left? Of course, we have time left.
Got time left. We're rallying again, by the way.
Lee's saying the second base thingy is over now. That they tried it. The purists got their way and said, "Hey, fuck that."
Well, they
My
did
friend
it.
Jim Urio said,
I didn't know. Wait. So they did it last year. So he's saying they canceled it again?
I think so. I
Okay.
think yes. That's what our producer Lee is saying. Yes, from the production truck. And
Lee's like the bear on ESPN. He always makes the losing gambling picks, but he does provide excellent information when it comes to what's going on in the world. Because I don't know.
Listen, everybody supplies losing gambling. That's why all of them are in trouble. All of them.
Well, that article you were talking about Wynn Gaming yesterday. A fascinating article. Shaq dumped his ownership in the Sacramento Kings to be a big owner in Wynn Gaming, and in less than a year, they're trying to sell that pig. Did you read that article I sent you?
I didn't, but I could see. He's like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Wait a second. What did I do? I left the ownership of an NBA team, which makes money, to get in and do a betting app where nobody will make money long-term and it goes to zero. That seems. My friend Jim Urio, though, he said that at least the NFL should do overtime like soccer, right? Where soccer, they just keep playing until everybody falls asleep except one guy and he scores.
Until everybody has flopped their way out of the game.
No, even better, until everybody falls asleep and one guy scores a goal to win the game. Oh my God, that is some great shit. All right, Lee's tip for betting is never bet on the Jets. All right, so Matt, let's immediately take the Jets.
Always take the Jets. Always take the Jets and the points. By the way, I did get I got Tampa Bay heading into the third quarter plus 16. That was my best bet of the weekend.
See, the in-game betting is the way to do it.
It's the best. Plus 16. I mean, at home, and they were down. I think they were down 17 at that point. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the 16 going into the second half. They're going to win the second half, and they almost won the game.
Almost.
Most. Well,
All right, Matt. Thank you. Anything else? Bueller? Anyone? Bueller?
Again, earnings this week, big. A lot of the, Apple, Google, Microsoft, all later this week. You have the Fed coming with a rate raise tomorrow. I don't know. And again, we're already starting to go up. I said we'd probably drift up here. Since we started the show, we're up 100 points. How can I help you, Bob? What else can I tell you?
Take that fucking Michigan hat off.
Yeah,
that's how you could help me.
Hey, we're still number 3, and you are number.
That's 9, Matt. That's 4. All right, we got an out trade.
4?
4, 9.
See, I would have sold more. I meant
overbought, oversold.
Yeah.
Every time. All right, please join us at marketvitals.io. Please mind the mo. Pay attention to the value range. Be disciplined, Matt. That's the mantra that we talk. Be disciplined, trade discipline. Choke up, hit singles, go to the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Rod Carew.
Pass ball the second, wild pitch the third, sack fly, get you in 1-0, 1 out. None of that shows up in the stat book either.
Right on. All right, Matt.